good years to actually fund K-14 education above the minimum guarantee, which is usually about 40% of the state budget. They can actually make that grow in good times. I wouldn't expect that this year, but with all of the pressures on the non-Proposition 98 budget side.
Thank you for that.
Are there any other comments or questions? Okay. Moving to 4.G, approval of date change for May 2025 regular board meeting. Dr. Churchill?
Thank you. Before you this evening, this is an action item. Staff is recommending we move the date of our regular May meeting from May 15th to May 20th. That allows us to accommodate the extension of the statutory deadline that the administrative law judge gave us in light of a delayed response back from the ALJ. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to move the meeting?
Motion to approve.
A motion by O'Connor Radcliffe.
I'll second.
A second by Plotsky. All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries 6-0. Moving to 4.H, approval of resolution number 71-2025, entitled Resolution Regarding Non-Reemployment of Certificated Employees. Is this the one that we have speaker slips on, or is it the next one?
It's the next one.
Okay. Mr. Jimenez.
Thank you, President Couvret. This resolution number 71-2025 is in response to budgetary reductions indicated at both the state level and coupled with the impact of our district's declining enrollment. It prompted the need to eliminate and reduce a number of certificated employees and their positions for particular kinds of services effective for the next 2025-26 school year. On March 13th, the Board of Education passed a resolution as a preliminary step. In addition, a notice of non-reemployment was given to all the affected employees from that initial resolution on March 14th. And pursuant to the Education Code, 4 affected employees requested a hearing on the matter. Those layoff notices were rescinded for those 4 employees who had requested a hearing, and a hearing was no longer needed. As a result, a total of 20.6 full-time equivalent, or FTE, is reflected on the resolution on this evening's board agenda for a reduction or to be reduced or terminated in terms of employment for these employees that are listed on this evening's resolution. This resolution is presented for the board's final approval.
Thank you, Mr. Jimenez. I did want to mention that we know we have a budget crisis, and doing this is horrible. It really is a very, very hard decision. Last year, we didn't make any personnel cuts, and we were able to cut almost $10 million from our funding. And now as we look at this now, it's even harder for our programs to do this. So let it be known, I know we spoke about it in March. I don't want to speak for everybody, but we all have a very hard time with this. So at this time, is there a motion to approve, or comment or question?
I have a question. So when looking at this list, I know we have a new director, I think it's a director 2, for VAPA coming in, correct, Mr. Jimenez? Is that funded by the VAPA fund that we have from the state?
We do not have a director of VAPA position. We had a vacancy of a coordinator position.
Coordinator.
I'm not certain what the funding source was for that position.
Actually, off the top of my head, that is split between the current one-time arts, music, instructional materials discretionary block grant and Proposition 28 funding for that is specifically earmarked for elementary schools.
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay, I just wanted to make sure, as we were getting rid of several people at that same level. Thank you.
Go ahead, Mr. Chang.
Thank you. First, I want to agree with Ginger. I mean, these are all very difficult decisions for us. We went through this in March. For those of you that did not get to watch the March meeting, I would encourage you to watch that. I don't want to necessarily rehash everything here again. But I did learn a piece of new information last week that is affecting my comment right now with regard to one position. So one of the decisions we made was to eliminate 5 counselor positions, one from each high school. Last week I learned that we added, after COVID, we added 5 counselors to the high schools. And apparently, due to this student counselor ratio, 2 counselors were added to Del Norte and no counselor was added to Mount Carmel, which, that was what persisted for the last 3 years, like 3 or 4 years or so. However, when we made the decision to roll back the number of counselors to essentially pre-COVID, the decision was made to remove 1 counselor from every high school, including Mount Carmel, which didn't get an additional counselor after COVID. So to me, that's troubling because I feel like Mount Carmel sort of took one for the team after COVID, when they didn't get the extra counselor. And it was understandable, their student counselor ratios was lower. But having not benefited from the extra additional counselor, I think it's unfair for them to have to give up 1 now. Having said that, Mr. Jimenez, if you can correct me, make sure I have the right understanding. On the list, we see 2 counselors. One is Ms. Garcia and one is Mr. Briones, is that right?
That is correct.
And is it correct that Mr. Briones has the seniority over Ms. Garcia?
Yes.
Okay, so even if we were to keep 1 counselor position for Mount Carmel would not be able to keep Ms. Garcia.
That's correct. Ms. Gracia is less senior on the seniority list, so they wouldn't be able to keep that individual.
Okay. So due to the circumstance, I mean, I do feel like it would be unfair to ask Mount Carmel to give up a counselor when they didn't get one post-COVID. So I would be in favor of keeping 1 counselor position for Mount Carmel, but knowing that it would not be the same counselor they have today due to seniority. So unfortunately, the Mount Carmel counselor would still end up getting the pink slip under the seniority rules. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Can I ask, how many counselors did we have pre-COVID? Then how many did we end up adding and where are we now? Just so we can have a better definition of where the counselor situation is. And then if we can then talk to the counselor-student ratio, that would be great.
So we added from 2020 to 21 to 2024 to 25, approximately 10 counselors at the elementary school level. We added 2 counselors at the middle school level. And we added 6 counselors at the high school level.
Sorry. Thank you very much. And we do the 6 high schools, was one of those Abraxas as well? Is that who the 6th one was? No, it was the 2 at Del Norte? I gotcha. Okay, and those are what is added, and now we're looking to take away 5. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Are there any questions, comments on other positions, or more comments about the counselors?
Yeah, just, so they added 6, Mount Carmel got 0 of that, right? And then we're taking away 5 and we're leveling it back to student ratio adjusted numbers.
At the
for
time,
today's.
yes, if I understand the question correctly, at the time we added counselors with the one-time COVID money, our ratios were not equitable. And so there was a reason why Mount Carmel didn't get an extra counselor with the one-time dollars, and a reason why a school like Del Norte got 2 counselors, right? Del Norte today is 700 students larger than Mount Carmel, right? So it only makes sense that the core staffing would look different. So when you even it out by ADA, by average daily attendance, Mount Carmel holding it 4, the other comprehensive high schools getting 5, Del Norte getting 6. That actually was a band that all the high schools were within 30 students of one another when it came to counselors or students per counselor. With this reduction, if each of the high schools, each of the 5 comprehensive high schools loses 1 counselor, it will keep that band even. They'll continue to be within 30 students of one another, plus or minus. I mean, we're projecting enrollment between now and August, but at least right now on paper, right, it preserves that. So I hope that answers your question.
It does, thank you.
So I have a question about the, the school program specialists. What is their average caseload? Do you have any idea, Greg?
I don't have that number off the top of my head.
Okay, because we're getting rid of 2 of those, correct? And
We're looking at reducing program specialists by 2. We are. We're also looking at making changes to our service delivery model.
okay, what about, and that wasn't even the one I meant to say, but so I struggled. It was the school psychologists, I guess, that I was really looking at. That is my biggest fear, because that's 2 as well. That's why I skipped the number. Because those are shared across the board, so in a lot of levels. That's the one that I'm most concerned about losing, is the school psychologists.
So I can provide for you the same numbers I just did for school counselors, for school
Yep.
psychologists in 2019-20. From 2019-20 to 2024-25, at the elementary level, we increased school psychologists by 4. At the middle school, we increased by 3. And at the high schools, we increased by 6.
So you sent a bar graph, and I don't have it in front of me, that was great, and I was thrilled to see it lowered, but I don't remember pre-COVID there being us getting charts on a regular basis about suicidal ideation. And now we're getting that on a quarterly basis. And that is a huge fear for me. That I know at elementary levels that counselors are where the kids are getting sent to. But for secondary level, they're getting sent to more of mending matters or school psychologists, and not just in their IEPs. So that's a concern for me, us losing any school psychologists, because they're not just for testing.
Understood.
So, am I not correct?
No, we created assessment and care teams
Okay.
at the secondary level in particular in anticipation of our students' needs looking different post-pandemic. We were 3 steps ahead of that, and with the one-time dollars and with some of our board present, we were able to, in anticipation of, that elevated need, get in front of it, be responsive, as opposed to being on our heels and reactive. And so we added school psychologists, we added school counselors for the first time in our district's history, we added clinical therapists or social workers at all the secondary schools, we increased the hours of our SSSs, our student services specialists. There was a lot that we did. We started using, and you'll hear more about this at a future board meeting, mental health screeners like Panorama, like that had never existed prior, right? So there were a lot of things that we did as we're kind of in our leaner thinking mindset. We're starting to make some reductions. They're painful, as the board has already acknowledged, but I want to just make certain everyone's clear, right? We're not returning to pre-pandemic. We're still preserving many of the people that we and many of the positions that we created with our one-time COVID funds, but there are some reductions, and and with those reductions, right, there's going to be some challenges for sure.
Okay, But we still have a really high suicidal ideation listing for elementary schools. So that makes me really concerned about the SSAs going away compared to, because all schools across the board for elementary are losing them, correct?
The SSA position serves students at the elementary level, and they
Yep.
provide a tier 1 level support. So there will be an impact for sure, losing people that provide services at that level.
Yeah.
So for me, on this list in particular, the high school counselors are a priority for me. I think when you look at the ratios, although, they're not hideous, we were at great ratios this year, for instance. My concern is that in eliminating 5 positions, we are bringing our high school counselor loads up above our middle school loads, and that's rough. These are college and career counselors in addition to class counselors and social emotional counselors. While I understand that it is very hard to find, an additional $2 to $3 million in the non-personnel side of things, especially when we already cut $11 million in non-personnel last year. This is enough of a concern to me that I would love for us to agree that if, I'm having a hard time framing my thoughts around this because I know that the budget scenario is really, really ugly right now. But I would like for this to be a priority to bring back these 5 positions at the high school level as soon as we are able, because I have a suspicion that next year we will feel it, and we'll feel it keenly, and we'll see it in our students and their outcomes. And I think that that is extremely regrettable. I do think, I don't know where to go with this because we've already covered, Mr. Dill covered that we've lost, another 500,000 that we weren't anticipating with that COLA drop. We don't know what the governor's going to do. We're also facing potential loss of federal revenue, which in our district is $11 million, which is, wow, if we have to swallow that, this becomes nearly impossible for me personally, I think for our district. I at this point, am looking ahead to things that I don't want to cut, but prioritizing things to bring back when we have the money. And I know we don't have it this year. If we get it, it'll be some kind of miracle, and I think we've heard that. I would like to prioritize these counselors bringing it back. And before I give up the microphone, I also just wanted to say that I've received a lot of emails from people saying that we should start cuts at the top. And it was shared in March for anyone who wasn't here and didn't listen. Dr. Churchill has offered that, and this is not the complete list, but 43.7% of the proposed savings are cuts to management employees. So I don't want to hear the misstatements out there anymore about not cutting from the district office and leave our sites alone, cut from the top. He did, and he did a great job of that. Percentage-wise, that's 13% of our district, but he managed to bring in 43.7%. From management employees. These are people who may not work directly with our students all the time, but they support our our school site leaders and our teachers. And their loss is going to be felt too. So I would caution anyone thinking that cutting from management isn't going to hurt. It's going to hurt. It's going to hurt a lot. But I want to point out that that's in this list too. I don't like anything about it. I'm going to vote for it, but I don't like anything about it.
Was that a motion?
I'll make the motion to approve this resolution, yes.
All right, I will second it. Is there any more discussion and comment?
Just another comment. I had a couple of questions before, but more of a statement. But like my colleagues here, this is not easy. Clearly, we've had a lot of discussion back in March and through to this day. So clearly, this is not easy, and none of us like to do this. I will remind everybody. I've said this. I think at each time we've talked about the budget. I went back and looked at years past, just 4 years ago, And, you know, even if we were to cut this $10 million, which I feel like we should, down to, you know, so our expenses would be $555 million. If we looked at, you know, per student expenses just 4 years ago, we've far exceeded inflation-adjusted expenses. We could cut, if my math is right, $90 million and still be above that inflation-adjusted expense from just 4 years ago. And it's two reasons, right? Things are more expensive for sure. That's the inflation part. But also our enrollment's down, right? We know that. So we really have a fundamental adjustment to complete here. And this is one of many steps. And as Superintendent Churchill has said, you know, in the spirit of continuous improvement, I think we'll do that. And a couple of people made a comment, you know, when and if we, you know, can look at adding back services here and there in the future. We have this budget to complete in June, and then we'll start another cycle. So we'll continuously adjust as we can and as the climate allows it to. So you know, I'm pretty fixed on the work we've done and how far we've come, and I'll support this as well.
Are there any other comments before we take a vote?
So I'm not sure procedurally how we go about this. You know, as I mentioned earlier, I would be opposed to Mount Carmel losing their position for the counselor, but it's not tied. It's not tied to the person. It's tied to the position. But our resolution here lists names. So how will we go about approaching that?
So it's my understanding there's a motion on the floor in a second. Either we move this forward to a vote, or if you want to try to amend the current motion and you get a second. Otherwise, the original motion moves forward. Is that correct?
Right, so that's what I'm trying to understand. What kind of motion would it look like? Would it,
So you would amend the motion, I believe, to maintain one counselor. Is that correct?
Yeah, so
Make
if
sure
what you're trying to
procedurally right.
accomplish is to approve the resolution with the removal of certain
One
names
of the
from that,
counselors,
right?
just
Yeah.
one counselor.
Yeah, so we'd have to have a motion on the floor to approve the resolution with the elimination of a particular name. That's not the motion that's currently on the floor, but if the person who made the motion retracted their motion, then we could have a new motion on the floor.
So we need to move forward with the current motion, is that correct? And then if that does not pass, then we have another motion which would then accept your change,
No, I think you need to
unless you
make a motion to amend it. Yeah.
Okay,
You
okay,
need
I
to-
thought so too, that's, okay, thank you. That's what I thought
I
we were,
think
okay,
that,
perfect.
and I know the resolution has names, but functionally, you're asking to reduce the elimination of one counselor, and however that name bumps down, I guess.
Okay, so now I have so if I understand, Mr. Chang is making amended motion for this resolution with the exception of eliminating only one counselor position and not the two that are listed. Is that
Correct.
correct?
correct.
Okay, do I have a second?
Oh,
It's-
Basically, we're
it's-
removing one counselor from the list, but the removal of the counselor is going to be based on seniority as determined by PSS, and it is not going to be the current Mount Carmel counselor.
So Heather, it's just, it's accepting this resolution with the exception of only eliminating one counselor instead of the two. Is there a second on that? Hearing no second, then we will move forward with the original.
No, I'll second it.
Okay, Heather is seconding it. Therefore, we will move forward with the vote on the resolution that is amended to only get rid of one counselor and not two. On this one, can I have a show of hands and an aye for all those who approve the amended? You absolutely can ask a question.
Okay. I'm just curious as to like the actual fiscal impact of just eliminating one counselor position instead of two counselor positions. Like, does that make a significant, or, well, I mean, on this specific resolution, the one versus the two, like, is there a large difference in how that would affect our budget? I'm assuming, I'm just curious.
Without knowing which person, it would be approximately $100,000 of additional cost back into the budget. I already did.
Thank you. So as we move forward on this, I guess we're going to vote straightforward. If there's anyone who wants to make a comment with their vote. Oh.
I'm still confused. So I thought there was 5 counselors, not 2.
There are only 2 on this list.
Okay.
So question, if we are getting rid of 5 counselor positions and there's only 2 on this list, and we're only going to get 1 on this list, are we still going to fill? So what's happening as far as that goes? I know this is very confusing. So we're getting rid of 5 counselors. I assume 3 spaces are vacant.
So we have 1 counselor who's requested a leave of absence, and we have 2 counselors, I believe, who have resigned. I'm off the top of my head. I might
Okay,
be.
so I'm hearing 1.
So 1 resignation, 1 request for a leave, and then temporary counselors don't show up on this list. So we have some temporary counselors who are they just won't be, because they were temporary, right? They won't be invited back. So that's why you have just the 2 on the list, because they have tenure.
So we identified in our budget solutions 5 total positions. 2 of them are temporary contracts. Those end at the end of this year. 1 resignation came in recently, which allowed us to rescind one of the employees who received the layoff notification. So therefore, now we have 2 employees who remain on the resolution as part of the 5 positions.
So just make sure I understand. So because today's resolution is about approving names, we don't need to decide here how many positions per se we're going to eliminate altogether. What we need to decide here is whether we approve the list of names. And is that correct? And if that's correct, that's why I was saying my motion is to eliminate 1 counselor and for PSS to determine whichever that counselor is more senior from the list. So that's the motion.
I have one question on that one. For the person who's on a leave of absence, if they come back, are they more senior than one of the people on the list, or does that not matter? So I'm just kind of worried about that one person who's out in the cloud when we're talking seniority.
I think we've accounted for any counselors that are on a leave of absence.
And generally, when somebody's on a leave of absence for a position that is authorized, they are backfilled with a temporary employee, temporary certificated employee, and if that employee returns from leave of absence, they resume their permanent position, and the temporary position is then not renewed in the following year.
Okay. Tim, you'll give a question.
Yeah, what is the current amendment that was motioned and seconded?
The current one is a modification of the one that's written, that to lay off everyone on this list with the exception of 1 counselor.
So the amendment is to remove 1 counselor. That's really what the amendment is.
Yes.
Are we doing it by name or position? I think we have to do it by name, don't we?
Well, PSS will determine the appropriate name.
Okay. Okay.
So just to speak to that before we vote, I would be interested in all 5, but I do not see the unfairness that you do, Mr. Chang, and choosing just 1 school to favor. I don't see it here. I would be in favor of leaving all 5 in if we could find the money, but I can't support just 1. I do want to bring up that I do have some assurances that the very low number, the counselor ratio at some of our alternative programs, like our middle college and New Directions, may have scope to share their counselors to lower the load at our high school levels, which may help for 1 year or two, until it is my hope that we put them all back. But I can't support your motion to just remove one, because I don't find the equity in that.
So I've just been aware of a glitch. Our speakers, just one? Oh, just one speaker? Do you know which one that is? The last one? Wanted to speak on this topic, and it was misput down, and I want to make sure to give our student voice an opportunity. So we'll hear from that student, and then we will resume our deliberation. I apologize, but I want to make sure that people are heard. Alexandria?
Alexandria Dow?
Does it just start when I start talking, the timer? Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, PUSD board members. My name is Alexandria Dow. I am a current junior enrolled at Mount Carmel High School and a member of the ongoing protests, and I've come to this meeting to voice the concerns of each student at this protest and the Mount Carmel community as a whole. I remain aware that I am not a budget expert. However, just a few hours of researching these budget reallocations and hearing from students and staff at my school solidifies my belief that the changes for this upcoming school year contradict PUSD's mission statement. To attest to the current state of our schools, I offer a handful of situations from the past week alone. Last Friday, while talking with fellow MC student Ren Dutchendorf, I was informed of a conversation between him and our head of student support services, Miss Hatfield. She spoke of her experience with accommodating students escaping gang violence at the border and the vital ways the English Language Learner Program allows these students to feel less scared and alone in a new school. Miss M, the instructional aide for the ELL program, will not be invited to continue her position next year. Experimental AI and Google Translate have been proposed to replace Miss M's vital role in the integration of this marginalized group of students. A couple nights ago, I was talking with my dad about the upcoming protest. He was a former special education teacher in PUSD and is currently teaching in the San Marcos district. He was working on IEDs for his students, a task he does for most nights at least an hour outside of his contract hours. He said, and I quote, "I guarantee that if you ask any teacher if they work outside their contract hours in order to accomplish all of their duties as an educator, it will be an overwhelming, resounding yes." Based on the amount of my teachers who have proclaimed they spent their weekend grading my tests and essays, I do not hesitate for a second to stand by my father's statement. Recently, an English teacher told us that the expected class sizes for the upcoming school year could increase to 50, as more and more educators are pink-slipped. The remaining teachers' contract hours will not expand, but their workload will. This morning, I took my AP Chemistry exam, overseen by our AP exam coordinator, Ms. Gracia. She proved essential in distributing the correct resources and managing technological problems, and offered a familiar face among nervous students. Although I do not see Ms. Gracia regularly, each year when I enter her office to organize my schedule for next year, I am met with a degree of friendliness and warmth that instantly makes me feel more comfortable and welcomed at MC. However, sometimes these meetings run a little late. When my English class visits, the counselors have a difficult time seeing each student before our allotted time ends, simply due to the disproportionate student-to-counselor ratio. Ms. Gracia was pink-slipped this month. I fail to see how this helps our growing problem. The overworking and underpaying of teachers and school staffs remains the punchline of many jokes, but these budget changes incite serious concerns in educators and students alike. I understand that the board members making these financial decisions likely do not understand the direct impact they have on our communities, but I hope my testimony has clarified some of the anguish that they will cause.
Thank you. You know, and one thing I do want to note is that we understand there's people behind all these names. I don't think that's ever anything that we ever look away from. On that note, we do have a motion with the modification of removing one counselor. Are we ready to take a vote on that one? Okay, all those in favor of the resolution with the modification, say aye. Okay, motion fails 1 to 5. Then now we vote on the original motion. Oh, sorry.
Can I just make one comment?
Sure.
I would like to address what our student speaker said, because there is nothing out there in our budget solutions that says class size is going to increase by even one student. Correct me if I'm wrong on that? Not one. And I've brought up before that if we were, one more student in every classroom means we save $2.8 million, which would take care of a lot of these positions we don't want to cut. But we have not said we're going to raise class size. That is not in any of these proposals. You make valid points. I do want to point out that I think we do have students on our campuses, and I hope that we have reached out and done our job as board members to try to understand. But students like you coming forward really help with that too. So thank you for coming forward.
Well said. And now we're voting on the resolution as written. All those in favor? Aye. All those against? 1. Motion passes 5-1. Going to 4.I, approval of resolution 72-2025 entitled Resolution Regarding Non-Reemployment of Classified Employees. I'll hear from Mr. Jimenez to introduce the subject, and then we'll hear from our speakers.
Thank you, President Couvret. As was stated earlier, resolutions like these don't occur very often, and they are hard because they affect people, valued employees. This is a resolution for a certain number of classified employees for non-reemployment due to the lack of work and or lack of funds for the upcoming fiscal year. This is primarily driven by a drop in the state revenues for next year, coupled with our declining enrollment and the impact of that. Per the resolution that was passed at the March 13th meeting, written notification of non-reemployment was issued to those affected employees on that resolution. 26 employees in that group requested a hearing, and we anticipate an administrative law judge's decision expected in mid-May regarding those 26 requests. This evening's resolution does not include those 26 employees that were covered by that hearing. This resolution includes 26 other employees that were listed from the March 13th resolution and has accounted for in addition to any rescissions that have occurred between then and now. The board is asked to consider this evening's resolution.
Thank you very much. Clerk Ploski, can you call our first speaker?
Darlene Woodworth.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Darlene Woodworth, and I am a student service assistant and an instructional IA sub in SPED at Sundance Elementary. I have been with PUSD for over 20 years and plan on retiring in June. I was here when the position went away in 2012. That's when I became the instructional assistant in SPED at the same school. When I was on the playground, the gen ed students would ask, when was I coming to their class or do groups again? They were asking for it. The teachers were asking for it. I believe the district-wide, they were hearing the same thing, and that's why the position was brought back. I was so happy to return to the SSA position. The responsibilities changed some, but it was more class lessons than small groups. That was fine with me because I got to know all the students better, Tier 1 students. I do second step lessons in TK through 3rd. They consist of skills for learning, recognizing feelings in our friends and ourselves, empathy, calming down, problem solving, and bullying. I do extra lessons with books and activities that the teacher may ask for or because of just to help with friendship. I work in a smaller school. For this year, I did 143 second step lessons in TK through 3rd and 64 extra lessons, TK through 5th, for a total of 270 lessons so far. It's only May 6th, 7th, I don't know. I am also on the playground every day helping with problems or conflicts or just to be a friend. Sometimes it's for a half hour. Other times, like on Fridays when I do games, I'm out there the whole lunch recess. I also do coloring sheets with the TK and K students on Thursdays, and it's fun just sitting there talking to them as they're coloring away. If I'm not doing class lessons or on the playground, you may find me helping students that might need a little extra care, Tier 2 students. I also assist our counselor throughout the year with Hope Squad, Start with Hello, and the Kindness Week. I know the students. I am the caring adult on campus who they feel comfortable coming to if they have any questions or concerns. It's devastating when someone says our position is not needed anymore. The LCAP survey was full of SEL, as it is every year. That's what I do. If you believe our wonderful counselors can take up everything I do with one extra day, you would be wrong. It's not too late to change your minds and add the job back. I'm still retiring, so it won't affect me, but I'm thinking about our students, the staff, the schools, and the districts. In the district, the SSA position is really needed. Please rethink your decision. And really quick, while I still have time, I want to read some letters from my students. Thank you for teaching us second step, and I know how to control my anger and how to deal with bullying. You were patient and a nice teacher. I think everybody should learn from you. We will be great grown-ups because of you. Thank you for teaching me about kindness and empathy. Also, now I feel comfortable at our school. Thank you for teaching me about kindness and love. I think we all should be kind. This school will never have bullying. You make me feel like I belong here. You are full of hearts. Thank you for our second step lessons, Mrs. Woodworth. Thank you for helping me on the playground today. Your second step lessons really teach us about friendship. Thank you for being there always. Thank you for teaching our second step program. We all like you. I really enjoyed the bullying lessons. You have made school a better place. You are the best gift a school can have. Thank you for teaching me about bullying and what to do if I see something happening. Also, thank you for coming out to the playground to help solve our problems. It's really needed. The kids are going to be a mess next year without somebody there to help them. Thank you. I'm so sorry. Thank you very much.
Kelly Ames.
That's going to emotionally be a little hard to follow. Good evening. My name is Kelly Ames, and I'm the SSA at Midland Elementary. Monday the 28th, a younger student who doesn't want to be at school, another student thinking about self-harm, another making a threat, a student struggling with behaviors in class, 2 second step lessons, the topic, random acts of kindness, and the connections that they bring. How we all have the power to leave a lasting impression on one another. I shared a video of a boy their age inviting children with unique needs to his birthday party. They got it because they could feel it. Connections. Time in our student center, I average well over 100 visits a day. On this same Monday, the 28th, during a Zoom meeting, the SSAs were told they were no longer needed. Did anyone making these decisions really understand what the SSAs do? Were any visits made to schools to see that we were no longer needed? I spent time with each of these students that single day, giving support, a safe adult, a connection. Here is what we've noticed this year at Midland. Girl drama is down, reflection reports down, and in the words of our teachers and our head playground supervisor, the kids seem happier this year, all because of the gift of time and an amazing space. At the March board member meeting, you heard my son speak to the importance of the SSA role. You heard the appreciation from the audience. You heard an articulate young man, PUSD educated. What you didn't hear was that he also benefited from the SSA program back when it was called PIP. The only bright spot in this situation was seeing my well-adjusted, smart, compassionate son use the tools PUSD gave him to speak out publicly. Today, a first grader whom I spend time with for classroom behaviors said to me, "I have ADHD and so do you." I laughed and agreed. Then he added, "I know you have ADHD like me because we both see things others don't." Maybe he's right about the ADHD, but what is really right is seeing these connections
and the gift of time. Maybe this first grader is right, not all can see. Unfortunately, those making these decisions did not give the SSA program the time to truly understand the value we bring and what will be lost. Thank you. And I see I have 7 seconds. I want to let Ms. Plosky know that we have been trained to help in suicide and threat assessment. Thank you.
Lena Rizgat. Was I close?
Good evening, board members. My name is Lena Rosquete, and I have been the SSA at Highland Ranch Elementary for the past 4 years, and a mom in the district for the last 9. I am here before you today, not because I need the job to support myself or my family, because honestly, nobody can support a family in San Diego with a salary roughly between $13,000 and $15,000 a year. I come before you because I am mortified and extremely worried for the kids in the elementary schools who are going to be left behind. Yes, left behind emotionally, without the support of someone whose sole job is to make connections with them, to help them learn to regulate emotions, learn empathy, solve problems, create relationships, and gain confidence as they grow. My job is not only to give 2 second-step lessons a month in the 18 TK through 3rd grade classrooms for a total of 13 lessons a month, but also it is to support kids to implement those social emotional concepts in their everyday life, like at recess, at the lunch tables, in the hallways, in the calming corner, and in the reflection room, when they may need someone to listen, to talk to, or just a hug. I learned that our school counselors have recently been asked to give the second step lessons for all the grades in the elementary schools. At Highland Ranch, that means 27 classrooms, or roughly 54 lessons a month. I heard during the court hearing Mr. James Jimenez saying that our job was not longer needed. But I'm confused. Now the district is giving our job load to the school counselors, who already have a huge load of work in their hands, and by the way, it's a higher paid position than us. Even when working 5 days a week, how are the counselors physically going to do this plus their own jobs? Just do the math. In fact, I understood that when the district eliminates a position, it is illegal to give that workload to another existing position. Isn't that what's happening here? I asked you to consider, is this really the best use of resources and money the district can justify? Is the district really saving money by cutting a position that has a relatively small monetary impact in the budget, yet a huge impact over the kids' lives? Thank you.
Beth Wells Whitmore.
Hello again, everyone. My name is Beth Wells Whitwama, and I've been a student services assistant since 2006 and see the incredible value this program has. I want to clarify for you the foremost work of an SSA.
Number one, at most schools, we teach 12 to 18 lessons in every TK, first, second, and third grade classroom. We use the second step curriculum, which means primarily using big picture cards with stories that give us a springboard to discuss various topics. Whether we're talking about managing strong feelings, having empathy and compassion toward others, or problem solving, children show me that they're emotionally involved in the lessons by the range of feelings I watch on their faces. We make our lessons engaging and often add an activity or book that reinforces the skills and allows them to practice. 2, we're a bridge between the classroom and the rest of the campus to guide children in developing and using these skills throughout their lives. We spend time in the lunch area, on the playground, and in game rooms, building connections with almost every student on campus. When I walk around campus, students are waving and smiling and calling out my name. When I start each class lesson topic, like feelings awareness, calming down, empathy, problem solving, personal space, tattling versus telling, and bullying, I get even more kids coming up to me on the playground to discuss something relevant to them. Every day on the playground, I talk to multiple children about their feelings or how to problem solve with each other. Just yesterday and today, I responded to requests from the principal, a teacher, and a yard duty to assist with specific student issues that came up and no one else was available to deal with. I also came across 2 other conflicts that I guided students through making useful choices to resolve. 13 students in 2 days. Recently, I've heard the following. Second step is antiquated. The work of the SSA is no longer needed. The counselors will do the SEL lessons. The implication of these statements is that someone else can just replace what we do by doing a few lessons. These are the roadblocks I see regarding that plan. Counselors already have a full plate with Tier 2 and 3 students, lessons in the 4th and 5th grades, and meetings. They would not have the time to do the expansive lessons we do. Next, counselors would also not have time to be a bridge between the classroom and the playground, nor to make connections with many Tier 1 students like we do. Plus, even if you do go that route, then you'd be paying someone 4 to 6 times as much per hour to do the same lessons we do. This does not make financial sense. Last but not least, my understanding is that the district is not allowed to have someone else do the work of someone who has been laid off. The bottom line is that research consistently shows that student success academically, emotionally, and socially is interrelated with them feeling connected and having a sense of belonging to their school. Student service assistants make connections with children that help them feel safe and that they belong. This position is integral to the well-being of the students in our district, and I really hope you change your mind. Thank you.
Chanthera Layla.
Good evening, respected board members and Dr. Churchill. My name is Chantara Lela, and I have been the Student Services Assistant at Tierra Bonita Elementary for 4 years now. I would like to take a moment to share with you some letters my 4th graders requested I present to you at the meeting today. One of the highlights of my job is I often set up game tables during recess. Why is that important? Because it allows kids who want another less physical activity to have an option to do something during recess. It allows kids to bond and make new friends with guidance and encouragement from their SSA. It empowers them when they learn a new game and master it. It helps them navigate social skills like waiting and taking turns while playing games, soft skills that carry forward into life skills. I have gone into classrooms across grades TK through 3rd for this past year alone and given almost 190 lessons total that focus on SEL and second step topics like empathy, conflict resolution, and emotion regulation. We support our teachers by often reinforcing these tools and strategies both in the classroom and outside in the attempt to decrease behavior problems. Keeping the new restructuring of the district organization and the MTSS model the district is now endorsing, I believe this would be termed as Tier 1 interventions and support. I would like to ask you, who will be pushing in to do these lessons and follow through on these soft skills when we are not around? The counselors are overloaded and the teachers are stretched thin. We work as a team with our counselors and teachers and support them through Tier 1 and sometimes Tier 2 interventions. In the interest of the students I support daily, I would like to ask you this. Who is going to close the gap for Tier 1 support? As per the most recent LCAP survey results, the parents and community want more SEL support at school sites. How does removing the SSAs at elementary schools work in relation to the goal of providing more support in place, when in reality you are eliminating the very people who help support these systems at school sites? As a school district, you are ignoring what the parents in the community are asking for and choosing to do otherwise, knowing that these will impact the students who have formed trusting bonds with SSAs, who are the Tier 1 supporters at their sites. We work as the eyes and ears of the counselors who do not have the time to attend to all the students at Tier 1 levels. As per data collected of Transparent California 2023, PUSD employed 95 school counselors who average $130K with benefits, 17 school psychologists who make upwards of $130 with benefits, 42 psychologists who make an average of $145 with benefits, and 25 SSAs with an average salary of $15,000. No benefits, just a big heart. I hope you can see the disparity in these numbers. We are clearly not doing this for the pay. I request you, as a parent, as a human who cares for children, to please stop and ask, is eliminating this role really in the best interest of our students? Thank you.
That's all of our speakers.
Thank you all for speaking. So I don't know if we want to have questions first, comments, or a motion. I do have a question. So you 5 ladies are amazing. The students are fortunate to have you. I can feel the love. I want to be your best friend. I mean, you ladies are truly amazing. How are we going to be losing these people, and what other supports are our students going to be having? If you could direct it to some of the comments as far as, I'm still crying, the counselor load, teacher load, why this was brought forward. If you could just do that publicly again, just so we can better understand, and if there's a place for people like this in other similar positions.
I'm happy to speak to it. You're not, I mean, the people who serve in these roles have an impact, as you've heard, and as we've heard multiple meetings. So you're not, if you eliminate these positions and the people that go with them, you're going to have less of an impact, right? Who's going to pick that up? That's a great question. How will it be picked up? That's also a great question. You know, are we going to miss opportunities with fewer people? Providing, targeted Tier 1 level supports? Likely. I mean, that's just the reality. I don't think there's a way to cut and say there's not going to be an impact or an effect. There's absolutely going to be an impact. There's absolutely going to be an effect. And that, can I just also say that's true with all of the positions that we're reducing. And I think that point has been well made. Yes, and. Right? So we would like to keep all of our people because they all add value. And a lot of our people in Poway are heart first and very purpose driven. So we're fortunate that way.
Do I have some comments, questions?
None of the SSAs are on the list that we're voting on tonight, though, correct?
Yes, they are.
I thought they were the 26 that were pulled.
No, there are names on this evening's resolution of folks that are student services assistants.
Okay.
Are there others that are part of that third group for 2 weeks from now? Other
Yes.
SSAs in that pool? Yeah.
Yes.
So there's no way of knowing which is which.
So I have shared with many people who've emailed me specifically about the SSA positions that this is a priority for me these positions if we found some money. I don't know how many people sitting here or listening at home recall the lengthy explanation from our March meeting, but the district got around $100 million in short-term grants, basically COVID recovery money. And we used that money for additional hours for counselors and psychologists, social workers, tutors, impact teachers, summer school, and reduced class sizes. But it was temporary money, and it is gone. That we don't have any more money. There's nothing to replace it with. This is, if we could find the cuts in other places, this is a priority for me. That said, I think there are a lot of issues here, but I do want to point out that no one else is covering Tier 1 interventions specifically alone. Everybody else, those counselors and psychologists, are Tier 1, 2, and 3. There were 4 psychologists and 10 counselors added to the elementary school level after COVID who get to stay. It is some backstop. I would also note, though, that I'm looking at the numbers for the counselor ratios, student-to-counselor ratios at elementary school. They are both the lowest by a lot and the highest by a lot, depending on your site. I would very much think that the equity here might require SSAs at the highest ratio sites. I'm going to make the motion to approve this list minus every single SSA.
I would second that motion.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor with this resolution, with the exception of SSAs. Are there any other comments or questions?
Yeah, I'll make a comment first. So I think since March, I think the others have the same experience. We've heard more about SSAs than any other positions that were under consideration. Now, granted, partly it's because there are 26 SSAs versus the other positions. But, you know, I want to be honest, I've been struggling with this for many months. And to me, impacting 26 individuals and potential families for 570 grand, the math doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I've brought this up before. I think we have better, you know, I think there are probably better areas to look at. You can't ever put a cost effectiveness on people. That doesn't make sense. But listening to all the feedback we've gone over the past few months, I just feel I agree with the Heather Michelle that, you know, SSAs, it's just not worth the cost savings. So I think I'm on board with removing SSAs from the list for tonight's resolution.
If we do that, does that pull back? I just want to make sure the 26, that pulls back the people that are already filed a motion and their motion would stop. They don't have to go through the court case.
No, the motion is to
Well,
approve this evening's resolution with the amendment to the resolution that's before you. The other student services assistant that requested a hearing that are pending the judge's decision will be reflected on an upcoming resolution, but can always be rescinded as well.
With that, are we ready to take a vote? All those in favor of the resolution, pulling out the SSAs, say
Could I
aye.
just-
Sorry.
could I-
Oops, got me at
sorry,
the end,
my-
almost there.
My hamster was turning up there and just kind of thinking this through here. Let me start by saying thank you to all those that are here, especially the ones that spoke. It's not very comfortable up there. It's very, very nerving, so I appreciate that. So I'm going to just be very pragmatic here and don't confuse that with being callous or not caring. I care deeply for those folks in those positions and what we're talking about here and that role. my family, my kids have benefited from that role several times, and I'm thankful for it. So I want to say that first. So, but pragmatically here, okay, I know it is a small number comparatively to some others, right? But so pragmatically, what's the option? So we're 500 short. Where would we try to find that? Is that in the non-personnel? Is that maybe another look operationally at maybe another position? Because I think since March, or positions or groups of positions, whatever, right? I think since March we did back out some things, right? So I know it's small, but I've sat here and talked many times, right? Every dollar, every penny, right? So where might we find that? What should we do next?
Yeah, we've still made the commitment via resolution at an earlier meeting to find 10 million in savings next year. So staff would start looking at the non-personnel side of the budget, and would have to come back with recommendations as we're asking you to approve the final budget in June.
And so we're past any other, right, role, or so we're past all those deadlines. So yeah, it would certainly have to come from some non-personnel place somewhere. Okay, thanks.
Actually, can I make a clarifying question? We're past the deadlines for any personnel or just personnel that require notification?
James?
Sorry, could you repeat the question?
So are we past the deadline for any personnel changes, or are we just past the deadline for any personnel changes that require notification?
We're past the deadline for any personnel changes that are result via layoff because of the statutory deadline requirements. So if there are any existing employee whose positions we would eliminate that would subject them to being laid off, we have passed that deadline.
So I guess, ask a different way, are there positions in the district office where if we somehow decide to eliminate for next year, that does not require notification?
No, they're all subject to statutory requirement deadlines. If positions become vacant, we have the option to not refill those positions. Since there is no incumbent remaining because it becomes vacant, it doesn't require layoff notification timelines.
Okay, so that applies to any position, or just, are there certain classes of positions only that applies to?
It depends, there's certain, like class size, if a teacher resigns, we still have staffing ratios negotiated that we would have to maintain and refill positions. So it depends on the positions. If they become vacant through normal attrition, whether or not we can not refill, it would depend.
Thank you.
So on that, got me thinking a bit, is we do have some schools that are larger than other elementary schools. It's my understanding we don't have 26 SSAs currently. There are a number of vacancies.
We have some vacancies.
Is it possible, instead of necessarily rehiring to get to that 26, there are some that are shared between two smaller schools, and they're 2 days at one school and 3 days at another? I know that's not optimum, but is that something that could be, that's not something that we're voting on here, is that correct? So that if that was something that we wanted to look at when we're looking at cost adjustments, if we're not able to get $10 million other ways, that could be an option at a later point.
We don't have many part-time classified employee positions that are split between school sites with a limited number of hours that their shift entails.
Well, you do it by days.
Yes.
They would be,
Even by days, because of the limited number of hours, we don't have many that, if any, that are split across school sites in terms of part-time positions like that.
Sorry, quick follow-up. So make sure I understand this correctly. So current vacancies and/or personnel that either retires or leaves, those do not necessarily require notification. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we're going to stay focused on this resolution with the exception of the SSAs. So I know there's a lot of other moving parts that we could get distracted on. But on this, if we are ready to take a vote, I would like to take a vote who is approves of the resolution. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 6-0. Still on, sorry, I was exhausted. I thought that was it. Nope. Okay. Adjournment. Our next regular meeting will be, what? Sorry?
She's just shouting.
Okay, no, I'm excited. Our next regular meeting will be on Tuesday, May 20th at 6 o'clock right here, and the time is 7:28.